Okay, what is up people? Welcome back. So in the previous episode, we basically got everything stripped down, we sprayed everything down.
Flashback. End of flashback.
Once I cleaned the motor, I went through and I oiled all of the cylinders again, as well as the crank, just to make sure no rust happened there, right? Today we're going to pull off the crank cover just to check the main bearings on the crank, just to check that those are fine. The crankshaft's not going to get sent off for balancing, because that's like a ridiculous amount. It's OE crankshaft, it's OE pistons going back on here. It isn't necessary because this should all still be within spec of what the manufacturer created it with, right? Because we're not replacing anything with aftermarket parts, everything should still be within spec. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly pull this off, check how that looks. Once we've seen how all of that looks, we're going to take a rag and some stainless steel polish or metal polish, and we're going to go through and just polish up the crank itself, where the conrods would meet the crank. Yeah, where the conrods meet the crank. So we're just going to clean that up, polish it up, just because we saw the damage that was done by the damage that was done to the bearings last time, right? So we're just going to quickly clean those up. You can't feel any marring whatsoever on these things. I know it would be at a microscopic level, that's why we're going to go through and polish those. Next, after that, we're going to flip this back around. We're going to paint up the block. We're going to get the piston rings put on. We're going to get the new bearings put on. We're going to press all of those back in, seat them up, clean up the top of the head, or clean up the face of the block. We're then going to clean up the face of the head. We're probably going to mate everything back together, and then we're going to go from there. So let's put you on a time lapse, let's get everything going. So I inspected the main crank bearings, and they're not in great shape. So the problem is here, there's a little bit of marring on the surface. If you can see small little grooves in the surface of the bearings, right? Now, 1, 2, 3, wrong way around. There we go. Okay, so the issue there is that I ordered the bearings. I went to go and pick it up with a new, what is this thing called? Cam belt. And I sat in traffic for an hour trying to get literally 700 meters from, well, I got stuck in traffic 700 meters from where I needed to be. So the place closed, and I didn't manage to get the bearings. So what we're going to do is we're just going to close this up now. We're going to turn around. We're going to get all of the gunk and stuff off of these things. We're going to try and get the block painted. We're going to clean up all the other parts. That's nothing. Let's get everything else prepped for us to put these in. There's no point in me going around and putting the new bearings and everything on this bottom end for me to just, you know, pull the entire crank out to put in the new bearings for the crank. So let's get everything else done, the auxiliary stuff done, and then we can see where we're gonna go from there. I'll probably only be able to get the bearings on Monday, so yeah. Okay, so yesterday, recording just went funny towards the end of the day. Things weren't recording properly. It was just a fun time. So I called it a day yesterday. I started cleaning up some of the stuff. As you guys can see here, this pulley bracket has been cleaned a little bit. I'm going to pull the pulley itself off and start spraying all of that. I went through and I've started cleaning and spraying some of the brackets, as you can see here. I've also sprayed the cover, the front cover, which we're going to remake these, and we'll see how those go, but that'll be in the next phase. And then some of the other brackets also, those have been cleaned and sprayed. So we're going to go through and continue cleaning and spraying everything else. The block has been sprayed. I'll show you guys that now. Yeah, that was done actually in the footage. It's done, but yeah, it's dried and it looks pretty good right now. So I'm happy with the way that came out. And then yeah, today we're just gonna carry on going through cleaning up the power steering pump, cleaning up the alternator, cleaning up the fan, everything else, piping, everything. So we're just gonna start off with that. Pull off the brackets, spray those, make sure everything looks nice and pretty again. So plans have been changed with the build slightly. Next year, January, is the only time that the body shop can take the car. So what we're going to do is, we can't spray the engine bay and everything now because obviously they're going to be pulling and working in there and it's just going to damage it again. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the motor running. We're going to take it, put it back in the car, and then run it in December, right? Which means we get to run the motor in with all the new everything that it has, right? So the motor should be running and healthy and happy to go by the time the car has to go to the body shop. That time, we will only take the motor out. We're going to leave the gearbox in the car this time. We're going to take only the motor out. We're going to send the frame off to the body shop to go and get straightened. Once we get that back, we're going to strip everything down from there, paint, and then reinstall the motor. So plans have changed slightly, not tremendously, but that just means that as soon as we have the motor back up and running, we can chuck it back in the car and then we can go for a drive. See how everything goes, and then we can start working on interior things and everything else from there. So yeah, that is the new update, and like I said, I'm just gonna go through and clean everything now. Okay, so there we have it. We have some of the stuff cleaned up for today, so this is where we're basically going to call the video. We have the valve covers painted, we have I think this is part of, I have no clue what that is. We have that thing just cleaned up and painted. We have that idler's thingy cleaned up and painted. We have the spark plug covers painted. We also have some of the exhaust shielding painted and other bracketry. All of that's been cleaned up and painted. We also started with some of the other hoses and things like that. So now that all of that's done, unfortunately that isn't the end. We still have quite a ways to go with all of this. So we have some goodies in here that's only going to be installed once the motor's back in. Well, some of it's going to be installed, some of it isn't. We'll go through that. We got the turbo that just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. We got some nice stuff in this box, but once again, that's only going to go in once the motor is back in the car. Some of these hoses, intake boxes, wires. We've got just a whole plethora of stuff that we just need to get through here. So with all of that being said, so I think, you know, things are getting a little bit out of hand with this whole world, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what do we do, what don't we do, what's a necessity, what isn't a necessity. It's kind of difficult, right? But we're trying to do as much as we can while still being reasonable with what we're gonna do at this point in time. So like I said, we're gonna get the crank bearings are only gonna be here tomorrow, or I'm only gonna be able to go past the shop tomorrow, pick those up. I won't be able to install them tomorrow because I have to do the edits and everything tomorrow for today's video that you guys are watching now. So, you know, time, it's fun. So yeah, so I'm gonna be able to pick up the bearings. I won't be able to install those. So in the next video, you guys should see basically us start reassembling the motor. It's going to be just finalizing, cleaning up all of this stuff, and then yeah, new bearings into the conrods, piston rings on, cleaning up the pistons, cleaning up the head, the mating surfaces, putting the head gaskets on, putting all the new gaskets everywhere that need to go everywhere. That's going to be the next goal, right? So right now I'm just going to go and grab everything, put everything back in a safe place, especially the clean, nice looking stuff. And then yeah, so I just want to say thank you to everyone for watching. It's always, you know, it's always fun just hanging out and doing all of these things. We're getting one step closer to having a car running, and then even more fun begins from there. So thank you guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like, hit the notification bell. I don't know if you want to, you know, just do all of those things. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Love you, miss you, bye.